And no, this is a great conversation. This is a great conversation and actually kind of goes into what I want to talk about. And in the chat, I threw in a book there, Brett, that you might like called Artificial Unintelligence, which actually tackles the context issue. You might like that book. Yeah, so it's on Amazon. It's that big weird URL that Amazon sticks, but yeah, I use that sometimes also when I talk to my data friends. So I'm gonna go ahead and, if you don't mind, share the screen, and I'm going to pop into the PowerPoint, but I want you all, and Tara, I made you co-host, so you can help me with the chat.
Okay.
And I'm just want you to, chime in, ask me questions. This is the kind of thing I do with folks where I do digital transformation with the IT folks, project and program management people out of the University of Maryland, the Project Management Center for Excellence. And the big thing I try to impress upon them, because I kind of like what you said there, Brett. Yeah, a lot of these IT folks equate data equals knowledge, which I try to disabuse them of that knowledge, of that concept. Okay. So when we talk about digital transformation, I know y'all hear it's a buzz term, all that kind of thing. And, really, what are we doing with digital transformation? And you can see here, we're just taking digital technology, data analytics, and we're using it to change things in our organization, right?
Sorry, Bill, can't see the slides.
You cannot see the slides? Can you see the slides, Tara?
No.
Okay, let's see.
Yes, I can see them.
Let me try this way. Okay, is this better?
No, no yet.
Do you not can see the slides?
No.
Okay.
Maybe exit out and try again to start.
Yeah,
stop
sure.
screen sharing.
Yeah, it's just black. Okay.
Yeah, it might be, I might be sharing the wrong thing. I'm sorry about that. Okay, let's try it this way. Okay, can you see them now?
Still black.
Okay, we're gonna try a different way. And this is probably what I need to do with this. Okay, we're gonna just look at it in normal view. Can you see it that way? Yep.
No.
Okay,
Still black.
all right. This is what I get. And it's spinning now. Okay, my Zoom just killed myself. Okay. All right, okay. All right, I'm gonna go back again. And if you can't see the slides, we're just gonna have a conversation. Is that okay? Perfect. Let's
That's
admit this
good.
person in. Okay. So can you see? Okay, I'm gonna do this. Okay. Can you see him now?
No.
No. Can you don't see anything?
No.
It
Correct.
says we're viewing Bill Brantley's screen. Do you have twin monitors? Maybe you should see.
No.
Move.
And Cynthia, have you finished to share the?
Yep, I stopped sharing.
Okay, so it looks like my Zoom keeps crashing. We're gonna ditch the slides now. We're gonna have a conversation. Is that okay? All right, so I'm gonna try to illustrate things with my hands.
Maybe on the chat.
Yeah. Okay, and I'll send the slideshow. I'll try to send the slideshow into the chat if that works, or
That's
if I
great.
can find a file, or I'll send it to you afterwards. So what I do when I talk about digital transformation, I like to look at it from not just the IT, the technology perspective, because a lot of folks do that, and they think the entire idea about digital transformation is just the technology you buy, right? And how many of you are all dealing right now with Microsoft Teams and Office 365? Remember when SharePoint came on? And the idea was that we throw some collaboration tools at people and immediately our organization will work better. How'd that go for you?
Well,
Yes.
I remember when OPM went to SharePoint, and one of the things I kept saying on the training, and I wasn't really in the training department, I said, you got to train people on how to collaborate. You got to train them on how to work with things. And at the time, we actually had a knowledge management function. I don't know if anyone knows who Ed Ames is. He was our knowledge management person at that time. This is years ago. And really, we worked together to try to help put together a program to train people in collaboration. So when I train folks in digital transformation, I like to look at it this way. Every organization has two types of capabilities. They have operational capabilities. That's the stuff that keeps things going. That's how you make widgets. That's how you do the services and products. And then you have dynamic capabilities. And that's what helps your organization to grow. Okay. So or operational capabilities, basically, that's what keeps the donuts. Remember that commercial, making the donuts? That's the operational part. Okay. The dynamic capabilities are what helps you grow into, we're going to use our Dunkin' Donuts example, the new coffees, the new pastries, that kind of stuff, right? So we actually have had dynamic and operational capabilities ever since we really having created businesses. What's different now is that we have digital technologies to really supercharge our dynamic capabilities. So one case study I like to talk to you about, and this is in the slideshow, and this was a study done with an international oil company, and they didn't give the name of it. I bet we can probably guess who it was, but international oil company. And what they did is they were trying to determine how to, grab more of the market share. And they did these projections out to 2050 about the oil industry and how they're going to get more wells. And they went and had this group come together and create what dynamic capabilities do we need to make ourselves succeed for the next 20 years. All right. And when we talk about dynamic capabilities, they can be anything. They can be physical technologies, social technologies, and they can be a blending of these things. And they have the data analytics pieces in there too. So is this making sense so far, what I'm talking about? Okay. So they got those, they sat down, they figured out, okay, what new capabilities do we need to put together? And the three things they found was being able to better spot wells, spot potential places to get oil. That makes a lot of sense, right? But then they found another dynamic capability was how they were training their people and how they were getting knowledge to their people. And then a third thing was this, what they call the in the field headquarters kind of dynamic tension. So they were looking at the field versus headquarters and how do they get more decisions down into the field closer to where the oil was so that people can make better informed decisions. So when you read the case study, it's a fascinating case study. It's pretty long and lengthy, but when you get in there, I kept seeing these things about knowledge. How do we get knowledge to people? How do we get the knowledge around? How do we get knowledge to help people to, support themselves? And when I start my training on this, it sounds like, it could be British Petroleum. We're trying to guess who it was. The authors won't tell me, but I think British Petroleum, I think you're right. It's pretty international. It would work that way. But as you can see there, right, what's going on here is we have these dynamic capabilities. Where the dynamic capabilities come into play is when you actually link them together. And if you saw my very beautiful PowerPoint, where I would show is that you network the dynamic capabilities together. And the key point here, and this is what you guys would love, is knowledge management is the key to making the dynamic capability networks work better. Okay, so I'm going to go find that slide and read it to you. But basically, the idea here was when you have these dynamic capability networks, you need to accelerate the information and knowledge flow. And that's why I liked your conversation, guys, okay? Because the first thing everyone thought of, oh, we just get data. We just move data around the organization faster. We move data to other people faster, right? And we give them information, right? Now, what's the fallacy that you see there? And I'm waiting for Brett to jump in. What's the fallacy you see there, Brett?
Oh, I mean, data without, again, we're back to context, right? You can move all the data in the world around, but if it doesn't solve a problem or lend context or even answer a question, what good is it, right?
Exactly.
The problem is if you don't know what questions to ask, then you don't know what data will enable the answering. And so it becomes this, okay, I need the set of every possible answer to anticipate every possible question, and, before you know it, you are inundated with stuff that you can't use or sends you off chasing rabbits that you don't need to chase, that had nothing to do with what you're doing, even if they're interesting.
Right. Exactly.
Maybe to draw on an analogy about Tara was talking about elephants earlier. Everyone's got a different piece of the elephant and they're blindfolded. And yeah, you can rotate, but you're not going to get that much closer to figuring out what you're touching, unless you take a step back.
That's true. That analogy does hold here very well. That's a good observation.
And you're absolutely right there, because one of the things I teach in this class is I look at, okay, what dynamic capabilities, and we have a 3-part process. We have digital sensing. So I'm going out there, what are new technologies? What do we have in our resource base already? What do we need to extend on? Then we have digital seizing. Okay, we can't do everything, but what would make the most sense for us to seize upon, and what would make sense for us to transform digitally? And the idea here is, what do we have in our resource base, okay? And the resource base is everything the company uses or organization uses to produce stuff. And it can be tangible or intangible, and it can be even stuff they don't own, because unlike some companies may think, they don't own their employees. We offer our services, our knowledge and such, in exchange for money and such. And think about other companies that are really good with digital technologies and using knowledge. Uber, Airbnb, they don't actually own any of the inventory they have. They don't own the cars. They don't own the houses they rent out, but they use that knowledge, right? And they use that digital transformation. They use the app to work that off. So do you see what's going on here with this? Makes sense? And this is why when I talk to my folks in the digital transformation, and I do this, coaching with them, the biggest thing I say to them is, in your resource base, probably the most important thing you have is the intangible knowledge, the data, the information, but the knowledge and the context piece, right? Yes, sir. Go ahead, Brett.
So this might be the point. I've been holding off on this for a while. I think this is the tee up point, which is, I think people misunderstand what's being transformed by digital.
Mhm.
And one of the problems with buzz phrases is that they think it means something, when really and I'll use you as an example, use this as an example, it's really not about transforming the digital environment. It's transforming how the new digital environment enables the stuff you're already doing better, stronger, faster, whatever. So your approach is not, ooh, the new toy, shiny thing. It's more a matter of, we want to do this, but we whether want to do this faster, a greater distance, or more robustness, or we're adding other opportunities here. And in the process, we're using new tools to get our technology to get us there. And really, so what you're managing is actually the application of the new technology to do things better. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And actually, I bring up to folks because I'm a child of the 80s. Actually, I'm a child of late 1970s. But do you all remember when spreadsheets were invented? Electronic spreadsheets? Great book, Serious Play, and it's going to disappear on me, but it's a great book on this. And it's all about how spreadsheets changed how we did business in the 80s. And it wasn't just the spreadsheet itself. I mean, it was a digital tool, but it was how we perceived businesses now and how we perceived how businesses operated, because we had a tool that could essentially be, in the terms of the day, a digital twin of the business we were going after. Remember the merger and acquisition crazes of the 1980s? That was all thanks to spreadsheets. And that was because we had a new perspective. So I like what Brett is saying here. Our tools, our digital tools, are giving us a new way to model what we're doing and looking at things differently. And that's why I tell folks, when you're digital transforming, it's not a piece of software you go out and bang, here, we got a silver bullet, right? It's how you're using the tools, but you're actually building new dynamic capabilities that are enhanced by the digital technologies, and you put them together in networks. And the key to the networks, or I'm getting here to the good spot for you guys, the key to the networks is how we make information flow, how we get the right people in the bus in the right direction with the information they need. We increase the velocity of knowledge, okay? And it's like we increase serendipity. What's serendipity, everyone? I bet y'all have heard that term before, right?
Things
It's an ice
that
cream
you,
st-
yeah,
It's an ice cream store in Manhattan, or a good movie about an ice cream store in Manhattan. Sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
Happy
There's also
discovery.
when
Happy discovery.
happy discovery. I like another way one guy puts it, when ideas have sex. It's basically, we're discovering new things. And we're starting to learn how to map out our information. So, and I'll send a slideshow to everyone so you can see how this all comes together. And to me, one of the things that organizations also really need with their knowledge management. How many times have you guys done knowledge management or knowledge mapping? I'm sorry, knowledge mapping. Have you mapped the knowledge in your organization? I remember at OPM, we did a pilot project map organizational knowledge. And it was fascinating because we were able to find all the different parts there. Yeah. So volume, velocity, variety. You want to talk more about that, Brett?
Yeah, so we actually added variety in our my last job at the JEC when we ran our CAM training because we added variety because of the different sources, the different types of sources, and then how it is applied. You know, because volume and velocity in and of itself, okay, sure, you know, computer aid, yeah. But when you start talking about social media, you're talking about the messages, and then you're talking about the reactions that the messages beget, and then you're talking about the conversations that the reactions beget, which are three different types, variety of things that have to be comprehended by an organization, particularly an organization that may be reacting to public opinion, you know, more often than not.
Right.
So that's where we see that over.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I like that. So it's getting information, flowing it through, reacting to it, creating more information from it. So that's where the serendipity stuff comes in, you know, and the new knowledge being created. And one of the important things, okay, yeah, Brett, you're about ready to say something?
Yeah. The thing with serendipity though is I think one of those things where it's lucky as opposed to good.
Yes.
And the problem with lucky over good is that if lucky becomes your method, then I
It's
don't
hard to
know.
reproduce.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. You know,
Absolutely.
and while I say it's better to be lucky than good, I know that's a pretty fun saying. That in this context, I don't know that. I think serendipity has some value in startup culture. I don't know that serendipity necessarily has value in a more corporate setting.
Well, I would argue it does if you're thinking about like Skunk Works and kind of these little parts, you know, where they go off and they try out new things.
But that's still entrepreneurial. I mean, it may be within Lockheed, but they built it to be very entrepreneurial. But if you're just in a regular law firm, you know, and you know, and you're just and serendipity is the way that you're doing legal practice, that may not necessarily be the way to do business. I'm not a legal scholar, so I don't know, but I'm taking a guess.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I used to be a paralegal a long time ago, and I see what you're saying there. It makes a lot of sense. And a lot of organizations are kind of locked into the operational capabilities. A lot of operational capabilities start off as, you know, dynamic capabilities, but as everyone started copying them, they became operational capabilities. It just became the price of doing business. But I like what you're saying there, because when we're talking about serendipity, that's why with the lean startup method, and that's why they say, you know, fail fast, experiment often. It's like, just, okay, I know you're not liking that, but you know, when you do that a lot, you're experimenting and you're keeping track of your experiments, it starts turning luck into more of a, you know, something repeatable process. So you got a better chance of finding things. And
I like to visualize serendipity a little bit as like Venn diagrams. So, you know, being a jack of all trade a little bit, and if you know enough to be dangerous and play at the margins, you'll pick up an idea that's well established in one field, and you carry it over to another context, and it's something completely, they've never thought of it before, but it's old hat for this other field. It's bringing cross-disciplinary insights.
That's a great idea. I was thinking serendipity in different contexts, but you're right. The Venn idea, yeah, that's super, man. That's a really great thing.
Idea. Yeah, and Peter Senge wrote about that in, you know, his book in the 1990s. And I'm just trying. Oh, the fifth discipline. There's also the Da Vinci effect, where people talk about that, where you look at the borders of things. And you're right, kind of mixing stuff together. Well, you know, just like things that you wouldn't mix together, you're now mixing together. And that makes a lot of sense. And you kind of make new discoveries that way. So when I'm working with folks and we're doing the digital transformation, I kind of want to get in the move in that part. And one book I really recommend, I don't know if anyone read this one, and let me make sure I get this title right. The Origin of Wealth. It's by Eric D. Beinhocker, B-E-I-N-H-O-C-K-E-R. And it's about complexity economics, okay? And you guys would love this book because at the core of it, it says economics is really not about money and profit. It's about knowledge and innovation. How you succeed in your business plan, you know, how you succeed in business is by being better at knowledge. And you look at your big companies out there and they have that knowledge resource and intellectual property is becoming more and more important to companies. And I can tell you, I was at the US Patent and Trademark Office for 5 years, and I can tell you, seeing the patents and copyrights that came through, you can see more and more of the balance sheet is based on intangibles that they have and the knowledge that they're creating. Because, you know, and nowadays it's pretty easy to build a car. Okay. I mean, relatively easy to build a car. A lot of companies out there can build kind of the same looking cars. In fact, they all kind of look the same. Where you differentiate yourself, is it on the knowledge that you can put into the car? Does it have automatic braking? Does it have backup cameras? You know, it's always some new thing. And I remember I was there at the patent office when we rewarded our 100th millionth patent, more than any other one, you know, any patent system in the world. And it was for a LiDAR system for self-driving cars. So that basically cars could see better when, you know, those autonomous cars can see better when they're out there driving around the streets. And you can see how the knowledge there was working with it, the intangibles. So the
What's
reason-
interesting about economics is that economics is a way of thinking, right? And related to your point, I know that they're trying to get military intelligence officers to study economics because first off, it changes your mindset.
Yeah.
And gets you out of a typical way of thinking, but it also causes you to look at relationships. And with the knowledge aspect, it's a similar thing, right? And this goes back to your point, Matt, where that serendipity, the Venn diagram serendipity you described, you know, things that are not necessarily related per se, when you bring them together, become related or become connected or create, as you've described, the serendipitous linkage of either a new capability or an opportunity that didn't necessarily exist or wouldn't exist in isolation.
Absolutely.
So, and then once one person makes the serendipitous discovery, then you got the task to go explain it to the other crowd, and you got to continue with the analogies. You got to paint it in pictures they understand in their language. So it's almost like being bilingual or something. You have to translate ideas.
So Ed Hoffman at the Columbia and Jordan Sims, they talk about the future of work. It's a class that they teach at the Columbia IKNS.
That's a great one.
And what they point to often is the intangibles. Like the future of work is about intangibles. So I'm going to put three ideas together. One I'm bringing in and then two that you guys are bringing together for a serendipitous location here, right? So something Ed was talking about, which is the job you're going to do 5 years from now doesn't exist right now. The job that you're doing now didn't exist 5 years ago because either it's created by you, created for you, or your career path, such as it is, provides a unique set of skills that's the right fit at the right time. But there's no path that would take you there if you were trying to get from A to B. Right?
I'm going to tell you a concept here that might help you on that. Okay. So kind of bear with me on that, but
go.
Yeah. So in Beinhocker's book, he talks about, now imagine this is a thought experiment. Imagine there's a massive library of business plans. Okay. So he calls it the business plan library. So it has it's like that infinite number of monkeys typing out infinite number of books. Same idea here. We have an infinite number of business plans. And how these business plans work is they have a blending of physical technologies, including digital technologies, and they have a blending of social technologies, how people interact with each other. And the idea is that you can basically go through this kind of this metaphor here and think about organizations now, and they're essentially a blending of the physical technologies and social technologies. And what helps them is, again, the knowledge, how they put it together and how they work with it. So have you guys heard of something called Blue Ocean Strategy? Or Blue Ocean? Okay. So this was created in the early 2000s. and I can't remember the names offhand. I can give you the book reference. Basically, the idea here is that right now, when we compete into the marketplace, okay, let's say I'm a fast food restaurant. If I want to open up a fast food restaurant tomorrow, I got to compete with McDonald's, Arby's, Wendy's, Taco Bell. That's a red ocean. And we call it a red ocean because it's a lot of competition out there. You know, imagine sharks circling around, a lot of fighting for the market space. It's a tough place to compete in, right? Blue ocean, though, is a new market where I discovered this, and there's not so much competition. And I'm actually looking for not for new customers. I'm looking for people that are not customers now, but if I give them the right offering, they'll be customers. So the classic example they give, you all have heard of Cirque du Soleil? Cirque du Soleil, okay. So the thing about Cirque du Soleil is that it's modeled on traditional circuses, but traditional circuses, they're a red ocean. There's a lot of circuses, they kind of compete. We're all used to them, you know, 3-ring circus, elephants, Atar, there's an elephant for you. You know, animals, acrobats, and all this stuff, right? What Cirque du Soleil is, they took away some of the elements. They did a new way of doing this. So they took away the 3 rings, they took away the animals, they took away the star performers, and they emphasized more of the acrobats and the theatrical parts of it. So they created a new space for circuses, and they were looking for people that wouldn't ordinarily go to a circus, but would go out for an evening in a theater. And they were willing to spend more time for that kind of theater-like experience at the circus than they would a normal circus. And that's what you do with the blue ocean there. And again, how knowledge management comes into that is you got to not only collect data on what customers want now, but who are the customers that are not buying, the potential customers, the non-customers. And then using that knowledge, creating those dynamic capabilities and putting them together in a new kind of social technology, physical technology combination out of that massive library of business plans, I got a new business out there, right? So think about this, you know, when I was reading about this. So you got Chipotle and you got Qdoba, and they open up fast food restaurants and they're successful. I mean, I'm here at University of Maryland campus. I see the college students out the door at Qdoba. And I don't know why, or Chipotle, and I don't know why, but they love it, right? Because it's all, look, Tara's got an elephant on hers. They love that because they're willing to go there rather than Arby's or McDonald's or whatever. And that's been able to carve its own market niche. So they're kind of like, they call them fast casual, or, you know, you can see the food being created in front of you. So is it making sense so far? You see this? Yeah. So this again is when we're talking about digital transformation, it's more not about the digital technologies, because the digital technology is going to change. And I like what Brett said here. You know, I've been an IT project manager for, 30 years. I've seen technologies change. I know 45 different computer programming languages, 30 of which I don't use anymore. Okay, because it just changes that fast. And, you know, I see stuff happening all the time that changes. And the one thing, though, is that building new processes and getting your people ready to use the processes, that's what makes digital transformation work for you, and getting them the knowledge they need, not the information, not the data, but the knowledge and wisdom to use this stuff right. So does that make sense so far? So when I talk to folks about
one interesting point is,
yes.
There may not be one right way to do it. You know, I think I looked at your LinkedIn page and it was VUCA, you know, uncertain. These are usually it's a novel problem. And I mean, you know, just doing something is better than usually the status quo, and trying new things to see what sticks. And
yeah. And
You got a question?
Yeah, I see YJH. Yes.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi. Okay, but I actually have a question because I am kind of interested in the topic because I'm hardly find myself a fit in this kind of new modernization with digital age. Right. I consider myself like a little bit background of me. Have a science background and also grown up in China, and I learned traditional Chinese medicine. I'm also doing the Microsoft Dynamics CRM work. So that's a whole bunch of things. And though I find myself more of a cross the line in a lot of time, but that's hard to define because it's ever changing, and then it's depend on the situation you're going to given different perspective for your different approach. So a challenge for me is how to define myself whenever I do have the ability to do this, but it's like how to say to other people that I have the ability, I have the insights, I know what kind of data or what kind of information I can gathering to make this work done. I mean, whenever I know what kind of job they're looking for or what kind of purpose they're looking for. So do you guys have any suggestions on this?
Yeah, I help people with career development and stuff on this. And actually, you know, Tara, we can talk about the example of my wife. My wife is an archivist and records manager, and she deals with paper records all the time. Yay, thank you, Matt. And one of her key points, though, is we're working with her to get her more digital skills. And we're actually taking the KM course next month or next week, Tara. So she's getting all ready for that. And the idea was that Tara helped her and talked to her and said, okay, here's your skills that you have now. Here's how they translate into that new knowledge management environment. So that might be one way to go with that and say, what skills do I have now? And then what skills do I need to gather up and kind of present myself differently? And a lot of times, you know, it's just sometimes we're getting into emerging fields. So Brett, I liked your observation because I remember when I was first in government as a PMF, Presidential Management Fellow, in the mid 1990s, when everyone was wanting a webmaster, but we didn't know what a webmaster was. So we just hired people and, you know, we basically had to build the job up. So I would say to you, YH, are you still here? Oh, there you are. What I would do is like, look at what you have now. What skills do you have now? Your operational capabilities. What new dynamic capabilities could you add on? And then one of the things I do a lot of is go out there and look at the job announcements and see what people are hiring for and what are the buzzwords and what can I do to kind of position myself that way? So that's a great question. Anyone else want to take this one?
Hey, Bill, I just want to give a plug for the archivist records managers. That's exactly my field as well. And so, you know, look forward to, yeah, I don't know, maybe connecting with your wife because I'm always thinking about the two Venn diagrams between that field and knowledge management, trying to come up with new serendipitous
She's a walking
stuff.
Venn diagram. She's a walking Venn diagram because she knows so much about paper and she can help translate it to the digital, which is what people need now.
Right.
I think it's a similar skill set when you get a librarian kind of mind. You're thinking of information and ontologies. Very, very, a lot of overlap.
Yeah. Well, librarians a whole, the idea of libraries has changed so much. It's amazing. I hang out with Silip now, and it's amazing perspective. But to YJ's question, I would change the question, and I would say, what are the kinds of problems you like to solve, or what are the kind of problems that need to be solved? And then what skills do you bring to help somebody solve a problem? Because and this goes back to knowledge management, because KM is everything in its essence core. KM is about solving problems and enabling decisioning. Okay. So whether you're talking about your home or you're talking about a corporation, it really comes down to helping an organization to see itself, which is a term my current organization uses, and to figure out what problems it needs to solve. And then looking at things and then having that set of weapons and or tools or whatever analogy you want to use to bring to bear to the problem. So I would start from what are the kinds of problems that either need to be solved or you want to solve, and then work out from there. Because your skill set, that backpack of skills you're carrying around with you, is very potent only if, and again back to context, only if it's applied to the thing that needs to be done. Solving a problem that nobody has may be satisfying, but doesn't do anything.
Does that help?
So thank you very much. Do you mind if I contact you guys, say from LinkedIn? And yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so it's a great question, and like what Brett's saying here. Yeah. So again, with the digital transformation, you know, we're looking at what the organization has to solve the problem too, right? And that's why we do the new dynamic capabilities. We got to figure out, okay, the classic example is like with the railroad industry, you know, basically, or well, let me find a better example than that. Oh, how about with the Kodak industry? You know, remember when they were into film? Okay, and they were doing the print film and they were doing the paper-based film and all this stuff. And a lot of things people didn't realize is that Kodiak created digital photography. They had the first digital camera. They actually had a online site where you could store film, digital photos and all that stuff. But, with all these advantages, they had some of the dynamic capability. But why didn't they capture the digital camera or digital photo market? What was the issue with that?
They were not built to last.
Okay. And
I mean, I
why
think
do you say that?
They didn't want to cannibalize their own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just don't think that they saw it as something that was going to endure, because photography was seen as a science, or an art, I should say, and people were not going to give up that art for this digital thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they did not see the mass market opportunity that it created.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, I like that. And I think you make a great point there, because again, all the dynamic capabilities, I mean, they pioneered a lot of pieces of the digital photography, but they still didn't want to cannibalize their operational capabilities. That's what kept the lights on. That's what kept things moving. And what I like about that, Brett, is you're also talking about they didn't see things. They didn't pay attention to the weak signals out in the environment. They didn't do the environmental scanning they should have done. And they didn't pay attention to the weak signals, which, by their nature, they're weak. And, what do you make of this? But we can see a change here. And I like what Matt said here. They didn't want to cannibalize, right? They did, they have a resource base. It's been built by the operational capabilities. They got these great processes in place. They got all these print shops. Why would they want to take those down? They have so much time and effort invested in them, money invested in them, and that's sometimes, like you said there, they can't see, right? They can't see the actual what they need to do. And sometimes with dynamic capabilities, you have to cannibalize and you have to reinvent. It's like IBM for a while there was all about selling their mainframe, selling their computers, and they almost went under until in the 90s, you had Gerstner come in and say, hey, look, we can become a consulting company. So get away from the hardware, start talking about things that people need, talk about the knowledge that we collected, and help people put stuff in there. And someone here put
A similar example, like almost a train wreck you're watching going right now, is all the oil and gas companies and green energy and this greenwashing phenomenon where, they like to put out advertising, say we're investing in green energy, and like, well, yeah, but there's a mixed incentives here because that's their main lines of business, and the climate change going on. So, speed it up a little bit, but it's a cannibalization kind of situation.
Well, there's pandering, which is a different problem. But I like when Elon Musk, when they were talking about, you're another car company, he goes, no, I'm an information company. And he changed the conversation. I mean, Musk is an interesting cat, and he changed the conversation about things and said, yeah, I mean, I may make vehicles or spaceships or whatever, right? But really, what's my trade? My trade is information. My trade is therefore information turned into knowledge and then applied against problems. I'm trying to solve problems, right? So again, when you back to YJ point earlier, what does Elon Musk do? Does he build cars? No. Does he build spacecraft? No. He solves problems, right? I want to do this thing, and to do this thing, I need to, my daughter brought up ice cream and didn't ring anything for me, so that's what my reaction is. But he solves problems, and he applies his skills, and he applies his technology, and he applies his resources against those problems. And I mean, there's marketing and there's all kinds of stuff, but to me, what's brilliant about him is he changes the conversation, and it causes you to come out. We're talking about just this whole, talk about digital transformation. Just look at how we have changed this meeting, right? We used to have to go to DC, right? And Tara would sit there and take attendance, and we sit there and hang out at EK or some other place and all this other kinds. For me, it's a 3-hour drive to come to DC and go hang out or do whatever. And since the proliferation of Zoom, we now have audiences that span all over the place. Thank you. Right, we have audiences that span all over the place, much broader opportunities to convey the same kinds of information faster, and people are more comfortable because they're in a setting maybe that is you can hide, right? How many people here don't have their cameras on but feel comfortable participate in this conversation because they don't ha- they can be anonymous but still be part of the fray, which is a great thing. Otherwise, you're watching Brett and Tara kind of fighting at the meetings like we used to. It's awesome, right? But I know, right?
Yeah.
I'm just giving. I haven't had a hug from Tara in an eon here, so I'm jonesing is what it is. So I'm old school. I'm tangible that way. But you make a good point, Bill, in that you kept it. Your idea of digital transformation has to always be about changing the question, right? It has to always be about driving what's the next thing, and then that's what you're transforming using whatever digital happens to be at. And that's where Kodak screwed up. Is Kodak didn't see that photography was going in this other direction. They saw photography for what it was and the art of it, and lost market share. And I guess they're dead, right? I mean, I don't know. Even though I have a ton of Kodak stuff still from back in the days, and they even made copiers and printers and stuff. But it's we all do that. So what's different? What's new, right? So anyway.
And the reason I like what you're saying here is that Kodak at any time could have dominated the digital market. They had it in place, and someone brought up the idea of Blockbuster versus Netflix. And Blockbuster could have dominated the Netflix market. They actually had the technology in place. They were copying a lot of what Netflix was doing. But I think you hit on the key point here is solving a problem, but not solving any problem, solving the customer's problem. And that's where you go out and you go into the blue ocean, you got these non-customers and you find them out there and you're solving their problem. And that's why I buy things. That's why, Tara buys things and such, because I'm trying to cut down my carbs, right? This is an example. So I'm trying to find low carb food. And I like spaghetti though, love spaghetti. Love, just to get a good dish of spaghetti out there. So I go out and try to find low carb spaghetti noodles. And I found them, they make them out of chickpeas. Not too bad. It's not too bad tasting. You put enough sauce on it, you can cover the taste. But that's what we're doing out there, right? So YJ, when you're out there job hunting, think about what do the people need? What do they need? What problems do they need to solve? And then I'm an organization, you are an organization. There's a great book out there you should read called Business Model U. And it helps you rethink about yourself as a business and what value you offer. And you put it on one page. And I help a lot of folks with their career development. We get a copy of the Business Model U. You can go to Google, download the Canvas. What value do you bring to your customers or your potential employees or explorers, excuse me. And when you do that, you're solving, like Brett says, you're solving someone else's problem there. And Elon Musk, what kind of problem is he solving for folks? When you think about those cars, I mean, they're basically supercomputers on wheels. And, the whole idea of autonomous driving vehicles, because I don't really want to pay attention in my commute. I want to watch Netflix while I'm commuting, right? Or I want to do something else and let the car drive itself. That's the problem we're solving on that piece. So with the digital transformation, my whole point here, and I want to wrap it up for you, is that digital transformation is more about the technology. It's about the problems that we're solving, and the organization has to invent those new dynamic capabilities from its resource base. And this is where the knowledge management folks are so important, because they can go into that resource base, they can understand what's in there, they can understand the knowledge, which is probably the biggest, most important piece of your intangible property, probably more important than your tangible. And they can help you get that knowledge out. And when you're building that network of dynamic capabilities, these are actually the folks, and I'll use it this way, they're the ones that can channel the information, make sure it's getting used effectively, and really help the company. So when you look at digital transformation, your real key there, according to complexity economics theory, is the knowledge you create, how you package that knowledge, how you sell it to your customers, and how they can use it, right? YJ, you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you very much. Really appreciate your ideas. Yeah, there are a lot of inspirations out of there. So I definitely will be interested. Think more about it and maybe try to review. Thank you very much.
Sure. And I'll put my email and my bio into the chat, and you can just contact me offline if you want.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So
Are we going to
great
see
work.
the recording somewhere?
Yeah, it's recording.
We're going to see the
We'll record all-
recording.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So Bill, good work. Excellent,
Okay.
excellent presentation. Let me put a question to you and to Tara.
Mhm.
In the context of digital transformation, how do you see it in the federal government in this post-COVID environment, right? How would you describe digital transformation in the federal space, non-DoD federal space? How has it improved things? How has it changed the culture?
Mhm.
How would you describe that?
Can I take us first, Tara?
Sure.
Okay, so I see pockets of digital innovation out there, and I see some people doing some good stuff. We're just not connecting together. And a large part of that is our tools aren't helping us collaborate and spread the knowledge. I mean, we are still in knowledge management silos, and you can see it affecting us. And I mean, where I work at now at the Navy Inspector General's office, I'm trying to build a new training department, and I'm trying to get our learning portal up there so that we can spread around knowledge and help our inspector generals work better, our inspectors work better. And we're having some issues because, people, oh, we got Office 365, we got Microsoft Teams. And I did a training 4 months ago that people loved. I'm not bragging here, but they loved. And all it was a bunch of tips on how to use your email more effectively. So people are thirsty for this, and they want to know how to be more effective and productive with each other. I know you're laughing there, Matt, but seriously, they loved it because you got these tools and they don't work half the time. And the big thing is that we are creating lots of information and data, okay? But we're not creating knowledge and wisdom. And I think like you said, Brett, Brett, you said here that we're confusing the two. And once we get over that confusion of the two, then it's better. My inspector generals are drowning in data and information. What they need is knowledge and wisdom. And Tara, I'm going to shoot it over to you.
Well, I agree with what Mel just said, of course, but I'm thinking about how I've been 100% telework for 2 years, and that's how my agency and many have decided to handle this situation. So now we have things like questions about where stuff is, and we're not in the office, so we can't go to the file cabinet. We have to be able to access things remotely. And so I think it's put us in it's forced us into this situation. It's not, because when I was at my job at work, I would go in and I would say, okay, I need to get that. So I'll walk over here and look in this area. And now I can't do that. I cannot do anything like that. I have to be able to find it online on the online resources. And therefore it has to be digital. So paper is not even created anymore. It's very rare. And that, I think, has basically put the government in this spot where they have to have things digital access, being able to access. Otherwise, they can't do business.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I'd like to add on to going digital and to the people who have wives that are records managers and prior SORMs. Because you can't walk down the hallway or go over to the cabinet, or, in one of my prior organizations in the admin department was every single regulation. There was a big cabinet, just regulations. And so it has to be digital. There's the M1921, which is a digital law and a requirement that was passed several years ago that didn't get much traction until COVID. And now that the deadline is coming up, everybody is saying, oh, we don't have enough time. Well, sorry. Yes, you did. You just didn't pay attention to it when it first came out. Right. So it is having the ability to find it digitally, manage it digitally, and connecting those digital silos, because we are still in an organizational mindset. I know, at least for the DoD, and especially for the organization I've recently joined, they are strongly siloed and they are resistant to breaking silo. Even the KMers, there's a steering group here and a working group there and another group here, and everybody is kept apart. When new SharePoint subsites are made, they aren't connected first.
my
They're
gosh,
just
yes.
made on the fly. There's no design. And so either you have to know the exact address or it's given to you, but you can't get to it from the main page and you can't get to it in 3 clicks. So there's a lot of disciplines with records and librarianship and knowledge, to make it all work.
Mhm.
So it is context based. It is, how does, not only are you solving a problem, you are connecting and collaborating, and it's that willingness to collaborate. We brought up tools earlier. Sometimes you're so busy to get something done, the way that you know how to do it may not be the fastest way, but you're so busy to get something done, you don't have time to stop and learn to do it a more efficient way because
Mhm.
you're so overloaded with, this is the original way. It reminds me when I first came to DC from San Diego. And I thought I had no idea in DC that certain times of day the streets would reverse directions and certain streets would go inbound during the weekday and outbound on the weekend. And I remember thinking, I know how to get from A to B going this route. There might be a faster one, but I don't know how to do that yet. So many of the tools that we were given, here's Teams, here's this, here's OneNote, here's all these things. Even OneNote, everybody can go into OneNote and share and write at the same time. But if no one showed you how to use OneNote or this tool or cloud or whatever it is, you can't get to that information that you need to internalize it, to become knowledge that you can act upon. So there you are, looking and looking, and you have to decide, every 45 minutes, we have, where we are, okay, we've gone to the cloud. They don't tell you that after 30 minutes, it automatically logs you out of cloud. So if you're working away and then you want to go back for a document, oh, got to sign in again. And so it isn't, again, silo. So learning how to collaborate,
Mhm.
I think, is important for all of these subdisciplines and skills that we use, and have the ability to say, I'm not a stupid person. I'm not a dumb Marine. I just don't know how to do this thing. So back over to you, Bill.
Okay, no, great conversation, and we are a little bit over our time, so I want to respect everyone. So, is there any other questions or anything? So we can kind of leave it and close out if you don't have any other questions. Great conversation. Thank you all for being so patient with you. Sorry about the PowerPoint crashing on me. That's what I
Bill.
get for using Zoom.
I'm sorry. I had an idea.
Mhm.
If you would go into the messages on our meetup for this meeting
Sure, I'll put the
and
PowerPoint.
type up all of the books
Oh,
and
okay.
authors and
Sure.
training, whatever you have recommended, because you had these gems that were just sprinkled around,
Mhm.
and I couldn't catch all of them, and I don't know
Oh,
the
I'll
spelling.
be certainly
If
glad
you
to
would
do that. I'll put together a reading list for everyone.
Thank you so much. I mean, just in this chat for this meeting, and everybody will be able to go there and get them. So thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Great.
Excellent. And thank you, guys. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. We're always looking for new topics, new things to discuss. And you want to get on the schedule, email me and I will get you in, and
Thank you, Brett.
if there's something we need to talk about. And Cynthia, we have this beautiful image that you shared with us, and and I'm hoping that this conversation has helped you take it to another level, and things like that. This group can be like a working group. Maybe you want to get people's input and take the next step. And if you have that situation, or someone, please let me know, and we will have it as part of our curriculum, because we do some great stuff here. And and so I'm so happy everybody shared their time with us. Thank you. Thank you. Oh,
Great conversation. Thanks so much, everyone.
thank you,
Thank
Matt.
you.
Good to see everybody.
I'm gonna go ahead and
Thank
shut off
you.
the recording, and I will make sure everyone gets a copy of this. I'll send out the link to it when it's ready.